Hey, welcome back to another policy breakdown here on the Black Patriot. As you know, my name is Roderick Threets, and today I'm going to break down the Green New Deal for you and give you my opinions on why the bill is bad. We'll go over the highlighted points that I have highlighted in the bill to bring some things to light on what is happening. And also, we'll give some alternative opinion at the end as it goes along. So this is going to be a running commentary on top of my dissent on the bill. But before we get into that, here's a message from rdelephant.com.
Would you like to voice your patriotism without the threat of being censored or shadow banned? Would you like to contribute to wounded veterans but don't know how? Would you like to communicate with like-minded conservatives without being trolled? If you answered yes, then Red Elephant, rdelephant.com is for you. Red Elephant is the new social media platform that will not censor or shadow ban you, and a portion of your sign-up fee goes directly to the Wounded Warriors Project. rdelephant.com.
All right, welcome back. Appreciate the guys over at RD Elephant allowing me to use that video here on this YouTube channel. It's a great site, so please go check that out when you get a chance. So, before let's just go ahead and get into it, right? I mean, everybody's been waiting on this, so let's go ahead and get into this. This is, it doesn't have a resolution number yet, but I'm sure it will pretty soon. And we're just going to go through. There's only 14 pages of this, so it's not too hard or too complicated. As far as the bill is concerned, there's not a lot of fluff in it, but there's a whole bunch of baloney in it, right? So the first thing under the resolution, recognizing the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. First of all, we know when the government does things go bad. Things goes bad completely, really, 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 really bad, right? And it cites in here the special report of global warming, and then the mass migration from the regions most affected by climate change. See, what does that sound like to you, right? Let's think about why Democrats want open borders and this stuff coming from the South. Right, they're gonna twist this into the narrative, right? Oh, another thing I didn't highlight either here, the $500 billion lost in annual economic outcome. That's interesting. I don't see how, but it will if this bill goes through. But we'll continue forward. Let's see in here. Letter E, more than 350 million more people to be exposed globally to deadly heat stress by 2050. Okay, and that's fine, but these people still don't understand that climate change does happen. It's been happening forever. The risk of $1 trillion in damage to public infrastructure and coastal real estate in the United States. $1 trillion. Well, we have hurricanes that do that for us anyway, for the most part. Now, if we go down, says here, whereas because the United States has historically been responsible for the disproportionate amount of greenhouse gas emissions, having emitted 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions through 2014, and has a high technological capacity, the United States must take a leading role in reducing emissions through economic transformation. Well, I don't think what this girl realizes that we are like fifth, sixth, or seventh on the list for greenhouse emissions. India and China leads the pack. So what would we be doing to lower that when the top two leading countries are becoming more and more industrialized? See, that's one makes sense, doesn't make sense kind of deal she didn't do when she wrote this bill. She also writes in the bill also says life expectancy declining while basic needs such as clean air, clean water, healthy food, and adequate health care, housing, transportation, and education are inaccessible to a significant portion of the population. Since when? I'd love to know since when we have areas of the country that are lacking this. unless you live in a rural area, transportation, public transportation will be an issue. They're not going to stretch out there. If you live out in the country, you have transportation. You have cars, trucks, motorcycles, whatever. You have prepared for that. Right? But that all goes into getting rid of the fossil fuels, which you'll see here in a little bit. And they just want to eliminate it altogether and have public transportation everywhere. Let's see. Also says a 4-decade trend of economic stagnation, deindustrialization, and anti-labor policies that has led to hourly wages overall stagnating since the 1970s, despite increased worker productivity. The third worst level of socioeconomic mobility in the developed world before the Great Recession, that is completely false because wages have been going up for the last, 50 years. I don't have the exact numbers, but wages have been going up because we're becoming more and more high tech. And business owners are seeing the value in their workers and they're giving the money willingly. See what else is in here. The erosion of the earning and bargaining power of workers in the United States. See, I have a problem with that because workers, they voluntarily enter an agreement to exchange labor for cash, right? That's voluntary. And employers give you raises every now and again, according to their bottom line. So you just want to start doing co-ops in companies? So the owner and the investors invest all the risk and get no reward because workers need bargaining power? No, that's not how this works. See, letter D, inadequate resources for public sector workers to confront the challenges of climate change at local, state, and federal levels, and the greatest income inequality since the 20s, with the top 1% of earners accruing 91% of gains in the first few years of economic recovery after the Great Recession. A large racial wealth divide amounting to differences of 20 times more wealth between the average white family and the average black family, and a gender earnings gap that results in women earning approximately 80% as much as men at the median. That whole block of nonsense in itself is crap. See, what she is failing to realize is that lovely New Deal by FDR sunk Black America further down economically. The government put a thumb on them where they couldn't catch up. So she thinks this deal is going to help that. No, it's going to make it worse. It's going to make it a lot worse. At least now, 55 years ago, when black folks got equal rights, that they were on equal footing. For every one bigot, there's 3 or 4 other bigots. Non-bigots that will help you, and that's the mantra I live by, and I've gotten by really good. I mean, that whole block is just false. Let's see. Whereas climate change, pollution, environmental destruction have exacerbated systemic racial, regional, social, environmental, and economic injustices. Dang, everything is just an injustice, really? Systemic injustices. We're back at this again. I don't want to even tear that apart because that's not what we're here for. But you can see the rest of that. Let's see. Whereas climate change constitutes a direct threat to the national security of the United States, impacting the economic, environmental, and social stability of countries and communities around the world, and by acting as a threat multiplier. Okay, how many countries are there in the world? More than one. And she seems to think that we're the biggest contributor to quote unquote this climate change thing, since we're entertaining it a second. Come on. I don't know where she got her degree from on this one, for real. Then, oh, I missed this one too. Whereas the federal government led mobilizations during World War II, and the New Deal created the greatest middle class that the United States has ever seen. But many members of frontline and vulnerable communities were excluded from many of the economic and societal benefits of those mobilizations. Yes, they were. At least she acknowledged the New Deal was crap. She just double backed on this. She acknowledges that the New Deal hurt vulnerable communities, these vulnerable communities being the black community. She just admitted it. Just right here, just crushes her whole bill in half. Just crushes it. Completely crushes it. She contradicted herself. And then see here, whereas the House of Representatives recognized that a new national social, industrial, and economic mobilization on a scale not seen since World War II and the New Deal in its historic opportunity to create millions of goods, high-wage jobs in the United States, to provide unprecedented levels of prosperity and economic security for all people of the United States, and to counteract systemic injustices. Now, therefore, be it. And then we read this in the beginning, right? And her who wants to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions through fair and just transition for all communities and workers to create millions of justice. She repeated herself there again. Let's see. To secure the United States for generations to come, clean air and water, climate and community resiliency, healthy food, access to nature and sustainable environment, and E, to promote justice and equity by stopping current, preventing future, and repairing historic oppression of the indigenous communities, communities of color, migrant communities, deindustrialization communities, depopulated rural communities, the poor, low-income workers, women, the elderly, the unhoused, people with disabilities, and youth, referred to in this resolution as frontline and vulnerable communities. I mean, that's damn near everybody. So we see right now this policy is built on intersectionality. It's not built for the good of all people. It's built for a specific group of people, which will in the end oppress them. I mean, this is just oppressive in its sense, right? Referred to in this resolution as the Green New Deal goals should be accomplished through a 10-year national mobilization. 10 years. I really don't really want to read through the rest of this. I read it already. It just makes me, I know you guys are feeling it right now. See, working collaboratively with farmers and ranchers in the United States to eliminate pollution and greenhouse emissions from the agriculture sector as much as is technologically feasible, including supporting family farming by investing in sustainable farming and land use practices that increase soil health, and by building a more sustainable food system that ensures universal access to healthy food. Now, notice in here, she didn't mention anything about the planes flying overhead, the tropospheric planes that fly overhead and quote unquote call them cloud seeding when they're not. They're jumping crap onto us, be it, part nuclear crap, whatever it is. We don't know what's in that stuff, and it falls into the ground in our soil. Our soil's already screwed, lady. My God. And then this goes into the infrastructure portion. I'm not going to read that nonsense because that's basically saying they want to put in light rail everywhere possible. Everywhere possible. So this bill would be linked down in the box down there. Now, here is my dissent on this. It's pretty lengthy. I kind of wrote a couple things in here, and if you agree or not, that's fine. You can leave me comments down below when it comes to this bill. All right. The first thing in this bill is banning affordable energy, right? This bill calls for the elimination of all fossil fuel energy production, which is the lifeblood, okay, of the American industry and life. Now, this does not include only but all oil but natural gas in this, okay? Which is natural gas, obviously, is one of the cheapest forms of energy we manufacture in this country. And one of the reasons why the United States has been able to lead the world in carbon emission reduction is because of natural gas. But you want to whip that away. The second thing in here, too, is eliminating nuclear energy. And I have a huge problem with that. Obviously, we have a huge problem with that, right? Because it's one of the most productive and affordable clean energy sources we have. All right, over the last 15 years or so. You know, this move with this would literally purge about 20% of the American energy generation. So you can rely on intermittent wind for your energy needs. Come on. When we're so worried about climate change, we left the wind, you know, if we don't have constant temperature changes, we don't get wind. We don't have power. Idiotic, right? The next thing, the elimination of cars. Now, to be fair, right, everyone would need to retrofit their cars with holes in the floor, right? Think about it. Or pedals, right? Because the Green New Deal wants to replace every combustible engine vehicle. Okay, trucks, airplanes, boats, pretty much all cars except for electric cars within 10 years. Charging stations. Okay, now check this out. The charging stations for electric vehicles will be built everywhere. Okay, though power plants provide the energy to charge these cars. Thinking the same thing I'm thinking, huh? It also calls, basically, in the grand scheme of things, it calls for literally gutting America. You know what I mean? What we've built on, right? Retrofitting all the cars with state-of-the-art energy efficiency in every building in America. Every single building. Are you kidding me? Every single building. I don't see how that's possible. The price tag on that would be astronomical. And who's paying for that? The government? Oh, yeah, the government via proxy, us, right? Because they're going to jack up our taxes to be able to do this. And also, I mean, with, changing out combustible engines, air travel's done. Air travel's done, right? In this bill, okay, it calls for building out a high-speed rail at a scale where air travel stops becoming necessary. Let's see. Virgin Islands, Puerto Rico, Marshall Islands, Guam, Hawaii, American Samoa. You get where I'm going with that, right? I mean, think about this a minute. California has started a high-speed rail at the price of $100 billion. It's $100 billion in debt, okay? And it's really crushed the debt in California, right? Amtrak, think about Amtrak a second. They run billions of dollars in the red every year. Every year they run in the red. But these trains run on fossil fuels too. So imagine growing that business model out to every state in America. Makes no darn sense. Makes no darn sense. The Green New Deal also promises that the United States government will provide every single American with a job that includes a family-sustaining wage, as we read, okay, family and medical leave, vacations, and pension. You can just imagine that those left in the private sector would be funding these through some unspecified mass taxation. On the bright side, though, when you're foraging for food, your savings will be worthless. Another thing in the bill, I think I might have skipped over it because I highlighted so much of it. Education, free education for life. Need not say no more about that. The food portion, it promises the government will provide healthy food to every American because there are no beans or lettuce in your supermarket, I guess, huh? I mean, you're probably laughing right now. This is a huge joke, but it's not. This is what they're trying to do to us. Right? The government also wants to provide safe, affordable, and adequate housing for every American citizen. Sounds like we're going to be expanding HUD, aren't we? Which is already a partial disaster anyway. When the government gets involved in issues, in social issues, they screw it up. Name any three-letter agency you want. Name any three-letter agency you want, and I guarantee you'll find fault in every single one that has caused some sort of hardship or destruction in our country. I mean, that's plain and simple. There's another part in there, I know I skipped over it, that the Green New Deal aims to provide, okay, economic security. Economic security for all who are unable or unwilling to work. So it's kind of like the system we have now, but on a larger scale, right? Think about the people that live in low-income housing that don't have a job but drives that Mercedes to their project apartment, while all of us are paying for that. This is just going to be on a bigger scale. God. She also even said, too, here's what's funny. She even said, too, that we can't get zero emissions down in 10 years because we aren't sure that we'll be able to get rid of farting cows and airplanes that fast. You think I'm playing? You are think I'm playing, and that she said that. And here's something interesting. And I found a tweet, and a guy I don't ever agree with, ever. But Richard Spencer tweeted out something about this, right? And he says, I'm gonna read the tweet verbatim. Do you know how popular a Green New Deal would be across the board if it focused on national health care for all? Student loan forgiveness. Actually, you know what? Let me see if I can bring that tweet up. Actually, I can bring it up for you right here. Let's see. So yeah, here it is. Do you know how popular a Green New Deal would be across the board if it focused on national health care for all, student loan forgiveness, universal basic income, cleanup of air, water, and national parks, etc.? But no, AOC and the Democrats have to make it about climate change, which is abstract and disconnected from everyday life. The mass migration of millions due to said climate change and historical redress for non-white people. I don't agree with him on crap because he's an identitarian, but he makes a very, very valid point here. He makes a very valid point. I mean, what are we doing? Catering to, just people coming from south of the border and not catering to our people here? It makes perfect sense to me. It makes perfect sense to me. However, I don't really think this bill will get through Congress, because if it did, you think Gilets jaunes in France was something? Huh. Us Americans are a little bit more rowdy than the Gilets jaunes, right? So I don't think it'll actually go through. But what this bill is going to do, it's going to hurt the Democrats. This bill will hurt them. If they pass this even out to the floor, this will hurt them. Because you have some staunch capitalists on the left in the Democrat Party that don't want to see this happen. And they're going to stop this child at every single turn. So let me know what you think. If you like the deal, you like the bill, hey, down below down here, go ahead and leave your comment. I'll respond back to everyone when I can. Also remember, I do have the link for it. It's on my website, but I have the link for the bill down below. Okay, you can look at it at your own leisure. And like I said, you think the New Deal is a good deal, or you have some other concerns with the New Deal, let's discuss it. And until next time, and in grace and in liberty, God bless you, God bless America, and pray for our leaders.